Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Trisha Renee's Art Studio. Today I'm going to show you from start to finish how to create a realistic colored pencil portrait. First I use the transfer drawing method, making sure I have all the shadows and shapes traced onto the paper lightly. Everything is placed where it should be and as accurate as possible. I start by color mapping out the basic different areas of color and value. Throughout this process, for the most part, I'm going to be using a very sharp pencil. I'm going to be using very light pressure. If you see me when I am coloring, for the most part, my hands will be further back on the pencil, further not allowing me to press hard. Okay, because we're going to be building up a ton of layers here for color pencil, giving smooth, realistic skin colors. The colors will become richer and again more realistic as we add on more layers. This will help with blending all the layers together, the different colors together, as well as creating smooth transitions from one color area or value area to the next, especially on the face. Right now I'm kind of just laying out the base color of his skin. It's kind of a yellow ochre type tint, so I'm just going over all of it, almost all of it, really lightly. One thing to know, I'm going to be adding on so many layers. It'll be, I don't know, at least 10 layers in a lot of the places. While I am working, I am constantly looking at the reference photo. That is my guide for everything. So I am color matching, I am checking values, all of that by looking at the reference photo. So for the hair, I'm working in directional strokes, going along the way that your hair normally flows. For the face, the rest of it, I'm working in circular motion, trying to get really smooth, tight circles. That way our skin is going to look really smooth and realistic. I'm really mapping in those whites, those brightest highlights in there. Since colored pencil is transparent and it blends layers from underneath, you want to be careful around those highlight areas not to color dark colors underneath, because then it'll just blend everything and it won't get very light if you want it to be very light. I made sure with the glasses to get all of the details in right away and map that out so that way I don't lose my crisp lines. I'm going to be using a lot of different colors for the shadow areas. Not only just a darker version of kind of the skin color, you can also use blues, grays, purples, even greens. Once you blend them together, it's really going to look realistic. For the most part, everything I am doing is I am blacking in areas of color and value, just because that is the way things are in the real world. We don't have outlines on us. We see the color and the value. The value itself helps make it look more rounded, realistic, and not so flat. For this artwork, I used a gray sheet of paper. A lot of times you can otherwise also use a white sheet of paper. I've always done my portraits on a white sheet of paper, which is what I'm more comfortable with, just because this is my first time doing a portrait on gray sheet of paper. But the benefit of doing your portrait on a gray sheet of paper is that you already have a mid-tone established, so you're not working super hard to get those dark values, because you're already halfway there. So instead of working from 0 to 100, you're right in the middle. So lighter areas you can make lighter, darker areas you can make darker. So again, it was kind of a different process for me because the colors appeared differently on a gray sheet of paper versus a white sheet of paper. Okay, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. I do think it probably created less work for me using the gray sheet of paper. For this baby's hair, since the baby doesn't have a full thick head of hair, even though he does have a lot of hair, you'd still see the skin underneath. So I'm really going to lay down those skin values first, since you can see the skin underneath. And then afterwards, I'll add in some of the strands of hair. One thing to note too, these do take time. I'm not sure how much time this one took. Probably about 10 hours, I'm guessing. A lot of artists spend 30 hours or more on this. I'm really not sure, again, how long this one was. So even more so important than color is value. So if you look in the shirt, for instance, you can see all of the wrinkles. There's lighter areas and darker areas. That makes it look more realistic and makes it look like it has volume, that it is not just a flat drawing of a t-shirt. So far I've just been doing a lot of light layering. And now, so for a new technique is burnishing. So burnishing is when you've got so many layers and so much of the pigment on the paper that the paper almost cannot take any more color pencils. Then once you get towards that point, you can use either a light color, which is similar to the color you're using. So for instance, this shirt is blue, so I use a super light blue. Or you can use a white for this step, or you can use a colorless blender. But what you can do is press really hard and use maybe a little bit of a duller pencil tip. You're going to press hard and color it in nicely. Normally you want it to be nice, rounded, and smooth. For this one, since the shirt kind of has a directional texture on it, I'm keeping that directional texture while I'm burnishing it. You're going to do that. It's going to look really creamy. It's going to make everything solid, smooth, and shiny. And it's also going to wash out some of that color. Okay, so what we're going to do from here, you can wipe off some of that extra wax that comes to the top just with a napkin. Okay, I'm going to do that. And then you can come back in afterwards. You can only add maybe another layer on top of this, another layer or two. And you're going to go in and add in back that color that you need. As much detail as you can add, the better. It is those tiny little details, tiny little reflections, little shadows, stuff like that that really makes a difference. One thing to note, there is a few different ways to make a shadow, and sometimes I use a variety of those ways. So for color choices for shadows, you can either use a gray, you can use a darker version of the color you are using. So if you're doing blue, you can do a dark blue, and or you can do that color's complement. This is one of the best ways to do it, is use that color's complement. So on the color wheel, using just the primaries and secondaries, the colors across from each other are that color's complement. So blue and orange, those are complementary colors, okay? So for the blue one, if I add in orange and then I go back over it in blue, it'll make a darker color and kind of not so bright. It'll be duller, which is what we want. Okay, darker areas are duller, there's less color, they're a bit darker, and that's what we want. So using the colors complement is a great way to do that. A lot of times I'll use all three of these techniques. If you only use a darker version of the color, and you're not using its complement, you're not using gray, then that shadow will be really bright, which isn't going to be very realistic. And again, with so many layers that you need, I often use all three of these techniques. Again, just making it look more realistic. There is so much information I could give you about creating color pencil portraits. I would say I could write a book about it, but I am writing a book about it. I'm about over halfway done writing it right now. So again, there's so much information. Please ask me questions and I will try to answer them in future portrait videos in color pencil. I'm very good about responding in my comments. I am here to answer questions. And as always, I thank you so much for watching, and I really hope if you enjoyed this video that you do subscribe. I will be posting more portrait videos. I'm always doing all things art, really. I like to paint, do resin. I do all types of art. I can't even cover all of the ones that I do.
My time on my